Welcome to Heidi Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance. The first one is titled, "My partner signed a lease behind my back, I refuse to move in." So this whole mess started about a few months ago, but I still can't believe I'm actually writing this. I, 28F, have been dating Kai, 30M, for 3 years, and everything was going great until he decided to make a life-changing decision without consulting me at all. Let me give you some background first. Kai and I met through mutual friends at a housewarming party. We hit it off immediately and started dating soon after. He's smart, ambitious, and generally thoughtful. At least I thought he was. He works in tech project management, and I'm a physical therapist. We both have stable careers and have been talking about moving in together for the past few months. I currently live in a cozy one-bedroom apartment that I've had for 4 years. It's not fancy, but it's in a great location near my work, has character, and most importantly, the rent is reasonable. Kai lives about 20 minutes away in a newer building. His place is nice, but pretty expensive, and his lease is ending soon. We'd been casually looking at apartments together, discussing our must-haves and deal breakers. I wanted something with good natural light, a decent kitchen, I love cooking, and either in-unit laundry or at least on-site laundry facilities. Kai wanted a modern building with a gym and parking. We figured we could find something that worked for both of us if we looked hard enough. Or at least, that's what I thought we were doing. Last Friday, I went over to Kai's place after work. He seemed excited about something, but wouldn't tell me what it was right away. We ordered takeout and were sitting on his couch when he dropped the bomb. "So I have amazing news," he said, grinning. "I found us the perfect apartment." I put down my chopsticks. "Oh? When did you go looking?" "I've been checking out places during lunch breaks. And get this, I managed to snag a unit in that place downtown. You know the one, with the pillars in the front you always mention. The place he was talking about is this fancy new complex downtown. Beautiful building, but way out of my preferred price range." "Okay," I said slowly. "And when are we going to look at it?" His grin faltered slightly. "Well, I actually already signed the lease. I had to move fast. These units get snapped up immediately. But don't worry, you're going to love it. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. You signed a lease without me even seeing the place? It's perfect. 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, huge kitchen, and the amenities are amazing. There's a rooftop pool, 24-hour gym, underground parking." "Kai," I interrupted, "how much is the rent?" He shifted uncomfortably. $3,200 a month, but split between us, it's only $1,600 each. And with utilities included, so we won't be needing to spend extra on that. "Are you kidding me?" I cut him off. "That's more than double what I'm paying now. We never discussed anything close to that price range. But it's such a good deal for the location and amenities, and I know you make enough to afford it." I stood up, my dinner forgotten. "That's not the point. You made a huge financial decision that affects both of us without even talking to me about it. Have you even seen the actual unit?" "Well, no," he admitted, "but I saw the model unit and it looks great." "So you signed a lease for an apartment neither of us has seen? At a price we never discussed? In a location we hadn't agreed on?" "You're overreacting," he said, his tone turning defensive. "I knew you'd be difficult about this, which is why I just handled it. Sometimes you can be so indecisive about this stuff." Difficult? Indecisive? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Wanting to see where I'm going to live and discuss the financial commitment is being difficult? "The lease starts next month," he continued as if I hadn't spoken. "I figured we could start moving your stuff over next weekend to start things off." "No." "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, no, I'm not moving in. You signed that lease on your own. You can live there on your own." His face went from confused to angry. "Don't be ridiculous. We've been talking about moving in together for months. Talking about it, yes, not making unilateral decisions without consulting each other." The argument that followed was intense. Kai couldn't understand why I was making such a big deal out of this. He kept saying he was trying to do something nice for us, that he knew better than me what we could afford, that I was being ungrateful. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. "Call me when you understand why this is wrong. Until then, I'm staying in my apartment." "You're being childish," he called after me. "This is a great opportunity." I turned back one last time. "No, Kai. What this is a giant red flag." I drove home in tears, equal parts angry and hurt. How could he think this was okay? We'd been together for 3 years and I'd never seen this controlling side of him before. Or had I just missed the signs? The next morning, my phone was full of texts from Kai. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I was trying to do something nice for us. The lease is signed now. We have to make this work. Please be reasonable. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I spent the weekend thinking about our relationship and talking to my best friend. Girl, she said over coffee, this is about way more than just an apartment. This is about respect and partnership. He basically told you that your opinion doesn't matter. Maybe he really thought he was doing something nice, I wondered, still trying to make sense of it. Nice would be surprising you with dinner, not making a major financial and life decision without consulting you. Has he done things like this before? I started thinking back. There were small instances I'd brushed off. Him making dinner reservations at expensive restaurants without checking if I could afford it that week, planning vacations and just telling me what my share would be, always insisting his way was better when we disagreed about something. Oh God, I groaned, putting my head in my hands. How did I not see this pattern? Monday morning, Kai showed up at my workplace during my lunch break. I was not happy to see him. You can't just ignore my messages, he said, following me to the break room. I'm at work, Kai. This isn't the time or place. Then when is? You won't answer my calls. You won't text back. The lease starts in 3 weeks. I turned to face him. And whose fault is that? You signed it without talking to me. That's your problem to solve, not mine. I don't understand why you're being so stubborn about this. His voice was getting louder, drawing attention from my coworkers. It's a beautiful apartment. Lower your voice, I hissed. I am not discussing this here, and if you ever show up at my workplace unannounced again, we're going to have an even bigger problem. He left, but not before saying, You're going to regret being so difficult about this. That comment sent chills down my spine. I decided it was time to set some firm boundaries. I sent him a text. Your behavior is unacceptable. Showing up at my workplace was completely inappropriate. I am not being difficult. I am refusing to let you make major life decisions for me without my input. Until you understand why what you did was wrong, I need space. Do not contact me unless you're ready to have a real conversation about respect and boundaries. His response came quickly. So you're breaking up with me over an apartment? Real mature. I didn't respond. Instead, I called my mom, who's always been my voice of reason. Honey, she said, after I explained everything, you're not breaking up with him over an apartment. You're setting boundaries about how you deserve to be treated. There's a big difference. The next couple of weeks were tough. Kai alternated between angry messages about how unreasonable I was being and apologetic ones saying he just wanted us to have a nice place together. His mother even called me to tell me I was throwing away a good man over pride. I held firm. I renewed the lease on my apartment for another year, making it clear to Kai that I wasn't going to be pressured into moving. Finally, after 3 weeks of minimal contact, Kai asked if we could meet to talk. We met at a neutral location, a Starbucks we both liked to drop by. I talked to my sister, he said after we got our drinks. She helped me see some things differently. I waited, not making it easier for him. I shouldn't have signed the lease without you. I see now that it was controlling and disrespectful. What made you do it in the first place? I asked. I really want to understand your thinking. He sighed. Honestly, I've always been the one making decisions in my life. At work with my family, I'm used to taking charge and having people follow my lead. I thought I was taking care of us, making things happen. But my sister pointed out that a partnership means making decisions together, not for each other. And showing up at my workplace? That was completely out of line. I was frustrated that you weren't going along with my plan, and instead of examining why, I tried to force the issue. I'm sorry. It was a good start, but I needed more. Do you understand that this isn't just about the apartment? Yeah, I think I do now. It's about respect and trust and treating each other as equals. I broke that trust by making a huge decision without you. We talked for over 2 hours. Kai admitted that he had some control issues he needed to work on. I shared how his behavior had made me question our whole relationship. I want to work on this, he said. I've actually scheduled an appointment with a therapist to talk about why I feel the need to control everything. That's good, I replied. But I think we need couples counseling too if we're going to move forward. You still want to move forward? I care about you, Kai, but I need to know this won't happen again. Not with an apartment, not with anything else that affects both of us. We agreed to start couples counseling while maintaining separate living arrangements. Kai had to scramble to find someone to take over his lease at the complex he'd signed for. Turns out the actual unit wasn't nearly as nice as the model unit, and the utilities included didn't cover nearly as much as he'd thought. That was 2 months ago. We've been going to therapy, both individually and as a couple, and it's been eye-opening. Kai is working on his need to control outcomes and learning to communicate better. I'm learning to spot red flags earlier and speak up more clearly when something bothers me. Last week, we had a breakthrough in couples therapy when discussing future living arrangements. I realize now, Kai said, that I wasn't just making a decision about an apartment. I was trying to force my vision of our life together without considering your vision might be different. That's not partnership, that's control. Our therapist asked me how it felt to hear that. It feels like he finally gets it, I said. This was never about the apartment being too expensive or not nice enough. It was about respect and autonomy. We've decided to continue living separately for now, working on our relationship before we try cohabiting again. And next time, we'll look for places together, make decisions together, and sign the lease together. Yesterday, Kai and I were having dinner at my place, and he started laughing suddenly. "What's so funny?" I asked. I was just thinking about how I thought I was doing this grand romantic gesture, getting us this fancy apartment, and instead I almost lost you. Sometimes the best way to take care of someone is to let them be part of the decision-making. "Look who's been paying attention in therapy," I teased. "Yeah, well, it was an expensive lesson, but worth it." He's right. It was an expensive lesson. He had to pay a penalty to break the lease, and his credit took a hit. But our relationship is stronger for having gone through this. We've learned how to communicate better, respect boundaries, and make decisions as partners. For anyone wondering if I was too harsh about refusing to move in, remember that how someone handles your boundaries says a lot about them. A person who truly respects you will respect your right to be part of decisions that affect your life. Kai and I are taking things one day at a time. We're looking at apartments again, but this time we're doing it right, together, with open communication and mutual respect. And when we finally do move in together, it will be because we both chose it, not because one of us forced it. As my mom says, the right decision made the wrong way is still the wrong decision. Moving in together wasn't wrong, but how Kai went about it was. I'm glad I stood my ground, and I'm even more glad that he was willing to learn and grow from this experience. For now, I'm happy in my cozy one-bedroom apartment, building a stronger relationship foundation before we take that next step. Sometimes the best way forward is to stay right where you are until the time is really right. Update edit. Wow, I didn't expect this post to get so much attention. Since several people asked for an update, here's where things stand now. Kai and I are still together and still living separately. He's been consistent with therapy and has made real progress in understanding why his behavior was problematic. Last week, he actually turned down a great deal on another apartment because, in his words, it wasn't my decision to make alone. We've started casually looking at places again, but with a very different approach. We have a shared spreadsheet where we track potential apartments, our must-haves and deal breakers, and our budget concerns. Everything is discussed openly and decided together. Just yesterday, Kai and I found a place we're both genuinely excited about, completely by accident. We were walking back from brunch when we spotted an open house sign in one of those charming, converted Victorian houses in the historic district. "Want to take a look?" Kai asked. "Just for fun?" "Sure," I said, expecting it to be way out of our price range like most places in that area. The house had been divided into 4 apartments, and the ground floor unit was available. As soon as we walked in, we both felt it. You know that feeling when something just fits? The apartment has all these gorgeous original features. Crown molding, hardwood floors, huge windows, but with an updated kitchen and modern bathroom. There's a shared garden in the back where the tenants can grow vegetables or herbs, perfect for my cooking. And get this, the building has its own dedicated laundry room with new machines. It's about halfway between both our workplaces, walking distance to restaurants and parks, and, miracle of miracles, within our budget. Kai waited until we were outside before saying anything. "What do you think?" "I love it," I admitted, "but what matters is what we both think." He smiled. "I think we should sit down and look at our budget spreadsheet, make a pros and cons list. And if we both agree it makes sense, we can submit an application together." I couldn't help laughing. "Who are you and what have you done with the man who signed a lease without even seeing the actual apartment?" "Hey, therapy works." He chuckled. Besides, this place actually feels like us. Not just my idea of what we should want or your idea of what we should want, but something that fits us both. We spent the evening going over our budget, researching the neighborhood, and making that pros and cons list. Tomorrow, we're going back for a second look, this time with a list of questions about the lease terms, utilities, and building maintenance. The best part? When the property manager asked if we were interested in applying, Kai said, "We need to discuss it and make the decision together." The proud smile I couldn't help giving him in that moment said everything about how far we've come. Who knew that refusing to move into the wrong apartment would lead us to potentially finding the right one? Life's funny that way sometimes. But the most surprising outcome? His mother, who initially thought I was being ridiculous, recently apologized to me. Apparently, seeing how much her son has grown through this experience made her realize that sometimes standing firm on boundaries is the most loving thing you can do. To everyone who supported my decision to stand my ground, thank you. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. And to those in similar situations, remember that someone who really loves you will want to build a life with you, not for you. Final thought, sometimes what looks like a relationship crisis is actually an opportunity for growth. Kai and I are proof that with commitment, therapy, and genuine desire to change, you can turn a red flag into a turning point. Now, if you'll excuse me, Kai and I have an appointment to look at an apartment, one we chose to view together. Here are my thoughts about this story. Oh my God, can we talk about how this dude really thought he could just sign a whole lease and be like, "Surprise, honey, pack your bags"? Like, what kind of rom-com fantasy world was Kai living in where that would actually work? But what really sent me was him showing up at her workplace of all places to argue about it. Sir, this is a physical therapy clinic, not an episode of Grey's Anatomy. You can't just burst in during lunch break trying to strong-arm your girlfriend into living in your fancy impulse lease apartment. The secondhand embarrassment is real. The thing that got me heated, though, was his mom calling to tell her she was throwing away a good man over pride. Ma'am, your son just dropped $3,200 a month on an apartment he hadn't even seen properly. And you think he's the catch here? The delusion is astronomical. Like mother, like son, I guess. Both thinking they can just dictate how other people should live their lives. But can we appreciate our girl's backbone, though? The way she just straight up said no and stuck to it? That's the kind of energy we need to be taking into 2025. Because let's be real. If he's making unilateral decisions about where they're going to live now, what's next? Surprise, I bought us a house in the suburbs. Surprise, I decided we're having 3 kids. Surprise, I accepted a job in Alaska. The part that really got me was when he tried to play it off like he was doing her this huge favor. Sometimes you can be so indecisive. Excuse me? Since when is wanting to see an apartment before signing a lease being indecisive? That's not indecision. That's just basic adult common sense. And then this man really had to learn through therapy that relationships are partnerships, not dictatorships. Like, sir, did you miss that day in Relationships 101? Though I gotta give him credit. At least he was willing to learn. The bar is in hell, but at least he picked it up and did some squats with it. But my favorite part might be how the universe served him that karma with the actual apartment being nowhere near as nice as the model unit. Because of course it wasn't. That's like expecting the McDonald's burger to look like the advertisement. We all know that's not how reality works. The ending was surprisingly wholesome, though. The way they found that Victorian conversion apartment together. That's the kind of house hunting story you're supposed to have. Both people excited, both people involved, both people checking the budget like actual adults. Not this, "I signed us up for $3,200 a month surprise." Nonsense. Real talk, though. This story is a masterclass in standing your ground. Because sometimes loving someone means saying absolutely not to their bad decisions, even if they're packaging those decisions as romantic gestures. And sometimes the best thing that can happen to a relationship is having someone call out the toxic behavior before it becomes a pattern. And hey, at least Kai learned his lesson before they were actually living together. Imagine if she'd found out about his control issues after they'd already combined their lives and furniture. That U-Haul bill would have been brutal. But for real, I'm just sitting here wondering what happened to that apartment he'd originally signed on. Like, is some poor soul living there right now, paying through the nose for those included utilities that probably cover nothing but the hallway light bulb? Read the fine print, guys. Read the fine print. Know what you're getting into for both leases and for relationships. But anyways, guys, with this, we've reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and like the video/comment if you enjoyed it. I'll see you again tomorrow.